The city pulsed below like a fading memory, just lights and noise. But James Carter didn't move. He stood on the balcony of his high-rise penthouse, sleeves rolled up, jaw tight, eyes fixed on the skyline as if it held answers he could never say out loud. A cool breeze brushed against his open collar, but it did nothing to calm the fire burning inside him. Behind him, the glass door slid open with a soft whisper. "James." The voice was gentle, trembling, familiar. He didn't need to turn. He'd know that voice anywhere. "Alex?" James exhaled slowly, grounding himself, eyes closing for a brief second. "When?" Alex asked, stepping closer. "When will I stop being your secret?" Silence filled the room, thick, heavy, suffocating. James turned, every heartbeat cracking a little more inside his chest. Alex stood there in his paint-stained hoodie, fists clenched, eyes tired, not from painting all night, but from hiding. From loving someone who only loved him in the shadows. "I didn't know you were coming," James said quietly. "That's the point," Alex replied. "If I don't show up uninvited, I never see you." James stepped forward. "That's not fair." "No, James," Alex's voice trembled. "What's not fair is standing in this penthouse where the world thinks you sleep alone." James reached out, but Alex leaned back, just enough to make it hurt. "I'm tired," Alex whispered. "Tired of sneaking in, tired of looking at you like you're mine while knowing I'm nothing more than a secret." "You're not nothing," James said, voice raw. "You're everything. You know that. Then why don't you act like it?" James froze. Inside him, the war began again. Image versus truth, empire versus love. His life had been built on perfection, control, power. But coming out, loving a man openly, could make it all collapse. Alex gripped the railing, staring down at the city below. "You stand here every night looking down like the world belongs to you," he said. "But it doesn't. Not really. Because you're not living in it." James moved closer, his voice barely more than a whisper. "I'm scared." Alex turned, startled. James rarely let the cracks show. "Scared of what?" Alex asked. James's gaze fell. "Of losing everything. Investors, partnerships, my father's legacy, the headlines, the vultures. And me?" Alex's voice cut through the night. "Are you scared of losing me too?" James looked up, and in that moment, Alex saw it. The ache, the longing, the love. It had always been there, but so had the fear. James cupped Alex's face gently. Alex didn't pull away this time. "You're the only part of my life that feels real," James whispered. "When I'm with you," James said quietly. "I don't care about Carter Holdings or Forbes lists. I just care about you." Alex's breath caught. He leaned into James's touch, and for a moment, the world outside disappeared. Their kiss wasn't rushed or desperate. It was slow, steady, like a promise that had waited far too long. When they finally pulled apart, James rested his forehead against Alex's. "I just need more time," he murmured. Alex closed his eyes. "You've been saying that for a year." "I know." Alex's voice softened. "Do you want me to stay tonight?" James hesitated. Then quietly, "Yes." Alex nodded. "Then I will. But I don't know how many more nights I can keep being your secret." They stood together as the city lights flickered below like restless stars. Inside, the penthouse was spotless, cold, expensive, yet the only warmth came from two people clinging to something fragile. James took Alex's hand, their fingers locking tight as he led him inside. But the ache in his chest lingered. No matter how closely he held Alex tonight, he knew the day was coming when Alex would walk away for good. unless James made a choice. The salty wind tangled through Alex's hair as he stepped barefoot onto the private deck. Beyond the railing, the ocean stretched endlessly, waves folding into the sand with a rhythm that sounded like breathing. He looked back at the sleek modern beach house, its glass walls glowing softly against the night. Isolated, hidden. Perfect for love that couldn't yet be seen. James appeared behind him, carrying 2 mugs of coffee. His t-shirt clung to his chest, hair tousled from the drive. For once, he looked almost free, almost like a man not carrying the weight of an empire. He handed Alex a mug and leaned beside him on the railing. "I bought this place to disappear," James said quietly. "No one knows I own it, not even my assistant." Alex sipped his coffee. "So this is where you go to be free?" James glanced at him. "This is where I get to be us." Alex didn't smile, not fully. "You know what hurts?" he asked. "What?" "This house feels more like home than anywhere I've ever lived. And yet, it's not even real." James frowned. "It's real to me." "It's not part of your life, James," Alex said softly. "It's a pocket universe. We come here, we kiss, we share a bed. And then we drive back to pretending." James set his mug down, his voice rough. "I brought you here because I wanted to be with you. Completely." Alex looked down at his bare feet. "I can't live in your shadows forever, even if they're wrapped in Egyptian cotton and smell like expensive cologne." A quiet settled between them, not bitter, just worn, like an old bruise that never quite fades. James reached out and pulled Alex into his arms. Alex didn't resist. He never did. Not here. Their bodies fit together like 2 parts of a song. Alex rested his head on James's chest, listening to the heartbeat that always quickened when they touched. "I want to believe you'll choose me one day," Alex murmured. James ran a hand through his hair. "I already have," he said softly. "I just haven't told the world yet." Alex lifted his head. "Then tell me why. Tell me why we're still a secret." James hesitated. "Because once it's out, I lose control. Investors leave, partnerships end. My name, my power, everything changes." Alex stepped back, eyes narrowing. "So I'm the cost of your empire?" "No." James's voice was firm, almost desperate. "You're the only thing I'd give it all up for. But if I do it wrong, I could destroy everything I've built. And maybe take you down with me." Alex blinked, hurt flickering in his eyes. "I can survive being hurt," he whispered. "What I can't survive," James said quietly, "is being erased." The words landed like a weight between them. James looked away, jaw tight. He hated this part, the part where Alex made sense, and he sounded like a coward. He changed the subject. "Let's go for a swim." Alex arched a brow. "It's freezing." "That's the point." James pulled his shirt off, grinning slightly. Alex watched him for a moment, then smiled for real. "You're impossible." Minutes later, they were waist-deep in the Pacific, shivering, laughing, splashing like boys who hadn't yet learned to fear the world. James dunked Alex playfully, then wrapped his arms around him from behind. Alex leaned back, eyes closed, salt water dripping from his lashes. "Promise me something," Alex whispered. "Anything. When this ends, when the bubble pops, don't lie to me." James tightened his hold. "I won't. I never have." Alex turned in his arms. "Not with words," he said softly. "You lie with silence." That night, they curled up on the massive white couch, a throw blanket around them, bare feet tangled together. The fire crackled low. James rested his head on Alex's chest, while Alex traced slow circles on his arm. You know, Alex said, voice barely a whisper. I used to think I was lucky to have you, even in secret. James looked up. And now? Now, Alex continued. I think you're the lucky one. I'm still here, even after everything. James's chest tightened. You are? I am. They kissed, slow, deep, aching with everything left unsaid. Even in that kiss, Alex felt the truth. This was paradise. But paradise never lasts. The art gallery buzzed softly with jazz and low conversation. Spotlights warmed the canvases, throwing long shadows across white walls. Alex stood near the back, fingers twitching, not from nerves, but from hope. He scanned the crowd. Strangers sipped wine, murmuring about brushstrokes and palettes. Alex wasn't listening. He was searching. James had promised nothing, no confirmation, no guarantee, just a quiet whisper. Maybe I'll try to come. Alex told himself not to expect anything. Still, his eyes drifted to the door every few minutes. His heart leapt each time a tall figure walked in. Then, he saw him. Across the gallery, near the far wall, stood a man in a sharp black coat, head down, sunglasses on, indoors. Alex's breath caught. It was James. He was here. Alex watched as James pretended to study a painting, one of Alex's most personal pieces. Two men sitting at opposite ends of a bed turned away from each other. The space between them filled with color. But in Alex's painting, their backs never faced each other. James didn't move toward him. He didn't smile. He didn't take the sunglasses off. Alex waited, hoping, silently begging for James to cross the room, to just once show up. After a few minutes, James turned and slipped out quietly, like a shadow folding into the night. Alex gripped his wine glass so tightly he thought it might shatter. Later that night, he sat alone on the floor of his studio. The gallery had been a success. 4 paintings sold, glowing reviews already trickling in online. But inside, he felt hollow. The studio door creaked open. He didn't bother looking up. He already knew who it was. I came, James said softly. Alex kept his eyes on the floor. Yeah, you came like a ghost. James stepped closer. I didn't want to make a scene. Alex's voice was sharp. You didn't want to be seen. There's a difference, James said quietly. Big one, Alex muttered. James crouched beside him. I was proud of you. You were incredible. Then why couldn't you act like it? Silence. Heavy. Familiar. Alex stood and walked toward the unfinished canvas by the window, a new piece he'd started that week. A man drowning in a sea of white suits, eyes open, mouth closed. I painted this after our weekend at the beach house, Alex said. I thought it would be about freedom, but it turned out to be about suffocation. James didn't answer. Alex turned to him, voice trembling with pain. I don't want to be hidden anymore. I don't want you showing up at my shows dressed like a spy. I don't want to pretend this isn't real. It is real, James said quickly. Not if you can't even look at me in public. James stepped forward. Alex, I'm trying, Alex shook his head. No, you're managing. Your image, your fear, your life. His voice broke. I'm not something to be managed, James. I'm not a liability. James's jaw tightened. I never said you were. You don't have to, Alex said softly. Your actions already did. The words hung between them, sharp, unshakable, true. Alex's anger faded, but the ache stayed. I saw your eyes today, he whispered. You looked at that painting like it broke you. It did, James admitted. Then why did you leave? Alex asked. James stepped closer, closing the space between them, brushing his fingers gently along Alex's cheek. Because if I'd stayed, he said, voice breaking. I would have kissed you right there, in front of everyone. And I wasn't ready. Alex closed his eyes, the hurt softening into something fragile. I wanted you to stay, he whispered. Even if you didn't kiss me, even if you just stood there and watched, proud, like I mattered to you. James's voice trembled. In daylight you do matter, more than you'll ever know. Then prove it, James hesitated. Alex saw the half-step back him, and that was the problem. Always in between. Never enough. Alex took a shaky breath and pulled away. I need time, he said quietly. James blinked. What? Time to think. Time to breathe without wondering if I'll spend the rest of my life seeing you only behind closed doors. His voice cracked. Are you leaving me? James asked, his tone breaking. Alex shook his head. Not yet. But I need space. I can't keep waiting for a version of you that might never show up. He turned back toward the canvas. James stood there for a long moment, the silence stretching like distance between them. Finally, he walked to the door. He paused before leaving, voice low. I'll try, Alex. Alex didn't turn. Don't try, he said softly. Choose. The door clicked shut. Alex stared at the drowning man on the canvas and wondered if he'd been painting himself all along. The boardroom windows stretched from floor to ceiling, revealing the glittering city James once ruled without fear. Now it felt fragile, like the glass itself might shatter with one wrong move. James sat at the head of the long, polished table, surrounded by executives in tailored suits. They spoke about mergers, branding, expansion, all in the calm, rehearsed tones of people who'd never risked their hearts. But James's mind drifted elsewhere. To a quiet art studio. To a boy with paint on his hands and eyes that no longer looked at him with hope. As they finalized the Carter Navy deal, one partner said, We'd also advise limiting all personal media exposure next quarter. No surprises, no sudden headlines. Keep everything squeaky clean. James's jaw tightened. What exactly do you mean by personal media exposure? He asked. The man across the table met his eyes carefully. We mean keeping your image stable, sir. Investors don't like questions, rumors, whispers. Another board member added, You're a symbol, James. Carter Holdings is you. Your discretion is part of the brand, and right now that brand is worth $4.8 billion. The room nodded in agreement. Inside, James burned. They didn't say the words. They didn't have to. No boyfriends. No public kisses. No Alex. That night, James returned to the penthouse. The silence inside felt louder than any boardroom. He poured a drink and stood at the window, city lights flickering below. He took a long sip, jaw tight, eyes tired. Then he pulled out his phone. No new messages. He opened Alex's contact, thumb hovering over the call button. Then locked the screen. It had been 3 days. 3 days since Alex asked for space. 3 days since that voice, usually soft with love, had cracked with disappointment. James looked around the penthouse that once made him feel powerful. Now it just felt like a cage. The expensive art, the designer furniture, the imported rugs, the chilled whiskey. It all tasted like dust in his mouth. For the first time in years, James Carter didn't feel in control. He felt like a man quietly, slowly falling apart. The next morning, his assistant knocked on his office door. Sir, your publicist needs approval on this month's interview answers. James waved her away. Not now. He stared at his computer screen but didn't type a single word. His browser had been open all morning, not on business reports, not on contracts, but on Alex's gallery website. There was a new painting titled The Empty Balcony. It showed a lone man standing in shadow, staring out at the city. Behind him, a closed door glowed softly, warmth waiting on the other side. But the man never turned around to reach for it. James leaned back, his breath shallow. That was him. That night he dreamt of Alex, not the Alex from the last fight, but Alex at the beach house, barefoot, laughing, salt in his curls, sunlight spilling across his skin. In the dream, Alex whispered. You can't have both. James woke in a cold sweat. He sat up, palms pressed to his eyes, breathing hard. He couldn't keep living like this. Not hiding. Not lying. Not losing him. Before he knew it, he was driving. Not to the office. Not to the beach house. To Alex's studio. He stood outside the door for a long time, staring. What would he even say? His throat tightened. He didn't knock. He walked away. The next day, he was back in the boardroom. The same glass walls, the same polished table, the same people pretending they understood control. James said nothing through most of the meeting, until the end. An executive mentioned the new PR campaign for next quarter. Something about pairing him with a female celebrity to soften his image. James stood. The room froze. No, he said. The PR manager blinked. Excuse me? James's voice was calm, but it carried a quiet fire. No more pretending. No fake relationships. No staged flings. And no more branding me into someone I'm not. The air went still. I built this empire, James said, voice breaking slightly. But it's killing me. One of the older partners tried to interject. You're emotional. Maybe we revisit this later. James shook his head. No? You think I'm scared of the world knowing I'm in love with a man? He looked around the table, their blank faces, their polished fear. I'm terrified of living a life where I lose him. He gathered his tablet, straightened his jacket, and looked each of them in the eye. If investors want someone fake, let them walk. And with that, James Carter walked out, not just of the meeting, but of the version of himself that had kept him trapped for years. I'm done living in fear. He walked out. Nobody followed. Later that evening, James sat in his car outside Alex's studio again. Only this time, he got out. This time, he walked to the door. This time, he knocked, no answer. He waited. Still nothing, so he left, but not empty-handed. He slid a folded note under the door, 5 words, written in his own unsteady hand. I choose you. Finally, always. Alex found the note hours later. He stared at it for what felt like forever. I choose you. Finally. Always. The handwriting was unmistakable. James's rushed, slanted script, trembling like his heart had shaken as he wrote it. Alex wanted to believe it. God, he wanted to, but the note had come instead of him. No call, no voice. Just 5 words slipped under a door. Too little, too late. He tucked the note inside his sketchbook and turned back to the unfinished canvas at the center of the room. 2 hands reaching, fingertips almost touching. He hadn't painted in days. For the first time, love had stolen the color from his art. That evening, Alex met his best friend Ava at a quiet cafe. She sipped her espresso and studied him with her usual blunt stare. So, she said, still seeing your ghost billionaire boyfriend? Alex sighed. James left me a note. Oh, wow, she said dryly. How romantic. What century are we in? He gave her a look. It wasn't like that. Ava leaned forward, serious now. Alex, you've given this man your soul. You wait by the phone like it's oxygen, and when he finally says he chooses you, it's on paper. Like a breakup note from middle school. Alex laughed under his breath, then stopped. I think I'm done, he said quietly. Ava blinked. Seriously? I love him, Alex said, but I can't keep hoping he'll wake up one day and finally be brave. Ava reached across the table and touched his hand. You've been brave enough for both of you. 2 days passed. No calls, no messages. No James. Alex took down the painting of the reaching hands and started something new. A single figure on a balcony. But this time, he was walking away from the city, across town. James sat in the back of his black car, silent. The gala invitation trembled slightly in his hand. The Carter-Navy merger celebration. Every camera in the city would be there. He should have felt triumphant. Instead, he felt hollow. His assistant spoke from the front seat. Sir, we're on schedule. Just confirming, should we escort Mr. Rivera in through the back entrance if he's joining you? James looked up sharply. What? Alex Rivera? I assumed after the note. James's stomach sank. He's not coming. The driver merged onto the boulevard. James stared out the window, city lights flickering like ghosts on the glass, each one reminding him of everything he'd almost lost. He hasn't called, James said quietly. I told him I chose him. I meant it. I would have shouted it to the world by now. His assistant hesitated, then said softly, With respect, sir. If a man has to guess whether you've chosen him, maybe you haven't. James didn't respond, but the words hit like a slap. That night, Alex stood in his studio, surrounded by silence and the soft hum of the city outside his window. He picked up his phone, thumb hovering over James's contact. Then slowly, he deleted the number. Not out of anger, but surrender. Out of self-respect. He whispered into the quiet. I can't wait anymore. Across town, the gala pulsed with champagne and camera flashes. James stood at the center of it all. Tuxedo perfect, smile polished, but his eyes never left the door. He kept waiting, hoping. Alex didn't come. James excused himself from a circle of executives and slipped into a dim hallway behind the ballroom. He pressed both hands against the wall, breathing hard, then looked up and hated what stared back at him, a man with everything and nothing real. He pulled out his phone, dialed Alex's number. Voicemail. He tried again. Still nothing. Finally, he started typing, I told the world I'd wait until I was ready. But now I know I was just afraid. And I'm done being afraid. He stared at the words, then deleted them. It wasn't enough. Not anymore. Back in his studio, Alex stood before the painting, the man walking away from the city. He dipped his brush in crimson, ready to finish it once and for all. But just as the paint touched the canvas, his phone buzzed, a breaking headline lit up the screen. Billionaire James Carter publicly declares love for an unknown man. He's the only truth I've ever had. Alex's heart stopped. He stared at the screen, breath caught in his chest. And then slowly, he smiled. The ballroom was chaos. Flashbulbs bursting, glasses clinking, whispers chasing every corner. On stage, beneath a shower of golden light, James Carter stood still, microphone in hand. His suit was flawless, but his voice was not. He cleared his throat, looked straight into the crowd, then into the cameras. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, tonight was supposed to be about a merger. A few polite laughs. But I'm calling off the script. People shifted in their seats. Reporters leaned forward. I've spent years protecting my image, building Carter Holdings, becoming the man you see standing here tonight. He paused, voice trembling. But I've also spent those years hiding the part of myself that mattered most. The room went still. I was afraid, he continued. Afraid that love would ruin me. Afraid of losing approval, investors, legacy. He exhaled slowly, eyes fixed on the cameras. But then I realized, what's the point of a legacy if it cost you the only person who ever made you feel real? Somewhere backstage, his assistant covered her mouth, tears in her eyes. Phones shot up. Tweets exploded across timelines. James took one last breath. His name is Alex Rivera. He's an artist. He paints with his heart. He loves with both hands. And he's the only truth I've ever known. For a heartbeat. Silence. Then one clap. Then another. And suddenly, the room erupted. James stepped back from the mic, chest rising, eyes scanning the far end of the ballroom, searching for the only face that mattered. He wasn't sure if Alex had seen it. He wasn't sure if Alex would forgive him, but he was done hiding. Back in the studio, Alex watched the live stream on his laptop. He didn't cry, not at first. He just sat there, silent, still, watching the man he'd once begged to choose him finally do it, publicly, loudly, fearlessly, and when the camera zoomed in, Alex saw it. James's eyes weren't pretending. They were pleading. "Come find me." Alex grabbed his keys. 25 minutes later, James stood outside the gala, bow tie undone, hands shoved in his pockets, heart pounding like a drumline. The night air hit him cold. The press had already exploded. Headlines called it the most shocking declaration of the decade, but James didn't care. Not about the fallout. Not about the money. Not about the chaos. Only one thing mattered now. Then, footsteps. He turned. Alex stood beneath the archway, chest rising fast, hair windblown, eyes wide. Neither of them moved. Then Alex walked forward, slow, steady, purposeful, and James stepped into his path. They stopped inches apart. "You really said it?" Alex asked, voice low. James nodded. "I told the whole world." Alex's throat tightened. "And now what?" "I don't know," James whispered. "But I'm not hiding. Not again. Not ever." Alex exhaled, a small shaky laugh escaping. "It only took you 1,000,000 years, James smiled. "I'd wait 1,000,000 more if it meant ending up here." Alex's expression broke. Half laugh, half sob. He grabbed James's collar and kissed him, hard. Not behind closed doors. Not in the shadows. But outside, under the city lights, in full view of anyone who dared to look. When they finally pulled apart, James rested his forehead against Alex's. "You know," Alex whispered, "you just made my life 10 times harder." "I know," James said softly. "So let's make it ours instead," Alex grinned. "You're going to be hell to live with." James kissed his cheek. "Good thing you're patient." They stood there, holding each other as the city roared around them, not in chaos, but in applause. This time, no one had to look away. No one had to lie. James Carter had built an empire. But now, finally, he had something real to stand on. Love.